After coming off of a PCL championship last season for the first time since 1990, the Omaha Storm Chasers look to have a similar year with the young talent they have across the board. Welcome to the Omaha Storm Chasers pregame show. I'm your host, Katie Falco, here with Storm Chasers broadcaster Brett Pollock. Brett, thank you so much for being here today. A lot to talk about.
My pleasure, Katie. Great to be with you.
And Brett and I will give you everything you need to know before showing live coverage of Thursday night's game right here on Time Warner Cable Metro Sports. We're going to take a look at some of the past couple of series, starting with the Iowa Cubs. This series begun last Tuesday. Omaha unfortunately fell to Iowa 5-4 in Game 1. This was Jonathan Sanchez's first rehab game, and he pitched well through 5 innings, allowing only a single run while striking out 5 players. The second game between the two was postponed to Thursday due to weather. The Chasers and Cubs split the doubleheader on Thursday, going 2 for 4 at the plate with a 2-run homer. A player that really stuck out in Game 1 was Yuniesky Betancourt. Pitcher Brandon Sisk struggled in this game after walking 3 guys in a row in the 7th inning, leading to 2 Iowa runs and a 4-1 final score. Fortunately, Omaha rallied in Game 2 to hold a 10-1 victory over the Cubs. This game included a 2-run homer by Kurt Mertens and a 3-run homer by Wil Myers. The Chasers finished up the Iowa series on Friday with a 5-4 victory over the Cubs. The Chasers got on the board early with a 2-run homer by Anthony Seratelli in the first and in Wil Myers in the 3rd inning. So the Chasers and Clubs split this 4-game series. Brett, you know, overall, what were you most or least impressed with?
Well, I think what we're talking about when we talk about being impressed is what Wil Myers has done at the AAA level. He's made an immediate impact, and for a kid that's 21 years old playing at this level for the first time, he's not fazed by it at all. He's extremely confident at the plate. We haven't seen a lot of him in the field yet, but he's very, very impressive swinging the bat.
And you're talking about Wil Myers. In this series, he had 6 RBI, 3 runs, 7 hits, 2 of those being homers. You know, he started here May 17th. He's been hot ever since. When I say this name, what is the first thing that really comes to your mind?
I think probably confidence and quick hands. His hands are extremely quick through the hitting zone. He hits with tremendous power. He uses the entire field. And what he's also done is he's displayed the ability to hit different kinds of pitches. Not only hitting fastballs, but he's been able to hit breaking balls. He's been able to hit changeups. And like I said, he's extremely confident at the plate, and it really shows in his approach. He really has a very solid approach at the plate.
All right, looking at the next series, Memphis came to Omaha on Saturday to begin a 4-game series. In Game 1, the Chasers shut out Memphis 3-0. Clint Robinson had 2 RBI in this game, and pitcher Jake Odorizzi received his 2nd AAA victory. Omaha didn't see the same results in Game 2 as they fell to Memphis 7-5. Jonathan Sanchez, who is here in Omaha on a rehab assignment, struggled on the mound. He walked 4 and allowed 6 runs in only 2.2 innings. In Game 3, the Chasers were unable to overcome the Redbirds as they fell to Memphis 5-1. Nathan Adcock allowed 4 runs during the 5.1 innings he pitched. Lou, who was recently optioned to Omaha, went 2 for 4 at the plate, including an RBI, helping the Chasers to only 1 run of that game. In the final game against Memphis, Mike Montgomery was the starting pitcher. He pitched 4 2/3 innings. He allowed 3 walks, 6 hits, 4 runs, and struck out 4. Seratelli had a 2-run homer, Wil Myers had a 2-run homer, and Bourgeois really came out of his shell, and we saw a game-winning home run by him. Talk about the overall series against Memphis.
Well, I think one of the big keys was Jason Bourgeois emerging at home plate, 3 consecutive multi-hit games to finish off the series. A guy that's a veteran who's a proven hitter in this league. He's had success in the big leagues, and I think he makes the lineup better with his speed and with his power, but he's got to be able to get on base to take advantage of it.
And what do you think this series against Memphis, you know, kind of did for the Chasers in the Pacific League?
Well, I think what happens is that Memphis wasn't able to gain any ground. Iowa wasn't able to gain any ground, even though the Storm Chasers split, and that's not ideal when you're playing at home. It's put them in a position where the teams that are chasing them haven't been able to gain any ground in the standings. So the longer that happens, the better the chances are the Storm Chasers get back to the playoffs and have a chance to defend their league title.
And the Storm Chasers currently are sitting at 35-25 on the season with an impressive 23-9 record at home. The Storm Chasers currently leading the Pacific League by quite a few games, as you can see on this graphic. Looking at recent transactions, pitcher Vin Mazzara was recalled to Kansas City on May 29th. The player has definitely gone back and forth. Our Kansas City Metro sports crew will talk more about him coming up later on the show. Infielder Unieski Bencourt played 2 impressive games with Omaha, which included 5 hits, a homer, and 2 RBI. He was activated from the 15-day DL by the Royals on June 1st. Also on June 1st, infielder Irving Flew, who was sent to KC on May 3rd, was optioned back to Omaha. He hit .326 in about a dozen games with the Royals, so being optioned down to Omaha, more to do with roster space for Betancourt than his performance. Pitcher Jonathan Sanchez, who I mentioned earlier, began his MLB rehab in Omaha on May 29th. Kansas City will have to decide whether they want to add him or if he needs another minor league start. Also May 29th, pitcher Nate Adcock was optioned from Omaha from Kansas City. The night before Adcock was optioned to Omaha, he was a starting pitcher in the Royals-Indians game. He was relieved in the 3rd inning after allowing 5 runs. Outfielder Terry Evans, who was promoted to Omaha on May 13th, was placed on a 7-day DL June 2nd. There's a brief rundown of all the transactions. Tell me a little bit about Terry Evans.
Well, kind of in an interesting spot. Number one, he's hurt. He's got a back injury that's been kind of limiting him. And the other thing is he's really been kind of squeezed out with the arrival of Wil Myers, with Jason Bourgeois here, along with Derek Robinson and David Lowe. Those 4 guys essentially have to play every day. So Evans has been the odd man out in that equation, and that's why we really haven't seen him. Plus, you throw in the back injury, and it's made it very, very difficult for him to get into the lineup.
And Brett, just overall, what do you think really sticks out about this season than last season?
Well, I think what's happened this year is something that happened last year again, and that's this team's been very resilient. Even when they get into a situation where they've lost a couple of games in a row, it hasn't blossomed or ballooned into a 5 or 6 game losing streak. They've been able to kind of limit the damage, lose 2 or 3 here, and then bounce back and win a couple of games. They've played extremely well here at home, and I think the biggest thing that has happened is that whatever has gone on has been with a lot of change. There's been so much player movement that could have possibly had a negative impact on this club, but it really hasn't. The guys have not been phased. They've done a great job kind of keeping in line with the cliche of not getting too high, not getting too low, not letting what happens one day affect what happens the other day. And that's really been a hallmark of this team, not only in 2011, but again in 2012.
All right, thank you, Brett. We'll catch up with you later on the show. And coming up after the break, we will hear from the Metro Sports crew down in KC. They will give us an update on the Kansas City Royals.
Welcome back to the Time Warner Cable Metro Sports Storm Chasers pregame show. We're in the Kansas City wing with Royals Hall of Famer Willie Wilson. I am Brad Porter. Let's take a look at some of the Storm Chasers who have come up to Kansas City over the last couple of weeks. First, and maybe most importantly, Wil Myers, who's had a couple of good starts, including Sunday against the A's. 6 innings of scoreless baseball, had a little bit of trouble early on, but able to buckle down and also rely on his defense and have a really good start.
Well, you know, he needed to come out and do something because, you know, he was down in the minor leagues and he wants to stay here. So you got to go out and pitch well, and he did a very good job of the last outing.
All right, Wil Myers, you can't tell from his facial expressions, but we think he was happy with his start.
Well, I think he was happy.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, you know, it's nice to get a start, go out there, and as I said, I wanted to go out there and attack the zone and, you know, put up the innings and get to our bullpen and get a win out of it, and we did, and you know, it makes it a little bit better. You know, it was against my former team, and you know, just go from there.
Well, 3 former Storm Chasers will be in the starting rotation in Pittsburgh this weekend. Luke Hochevar Friday may be pitching for his spot in the rotation. Mazzaro Saturday against Luke McDonald, and Will Smith will make his 4th big league start Sunday before the Royals head back to Kansas City. All right, let's talk about Johnny Giavotella. He was a player many of us thought would make the roster out of spring training, didn't do it. Got called up a couple of weeks ago, and he's had 4 multi-hit games since he's been back here. He's fighting. He might be caught in a numbers game with Unieski Betancourt and Chris Getz, but he is putting the fight into it.
Well, you know, of the 3 guys playing second base, you know, they're all pretty good athletes, but for some reason I really like Gino. You know, I just think that he really goes out there, hustles, and you know he gets key hits for us. Last few times in games, he's got really key hits, and you know, even though there was some defensive problems, he really does a good job. And I just think that if he gets more time, he'll learn to be a better second baseman.
All right, Gerard Dyson has gone up and down a couple of times. Plays your old position in center field. His first in, he had a couple of gaps out there in center, but has since played better, and he's got something you can appreciate: speed.
Well, he's got great speed. I just wish that he could use it a little bit more offensively. You know, there's certain balls that I feel like he can still take in the left field, and he's trying to pull them. And, you know, when you're young, you got an ego. You got to let your ego go and realize that, hey, I'm a singles hitter and I'm not a home run hitter, so I got to do what I can do to get on base and score runs, and that's basically what he can do.
Another guy that came up from Omaha to kind of fill a spot for a couple of weeks was Irving Falou, and it was kind of a nice thing for a kid who'd spent 10 years in the organization and never being able to make it to the big leagues until now. And, you know, in a short time he was here, he hit .326 in his 12 games. He did what they asked, and he did a nice job.
I thought the kid did a really great job. You know, but he's just like Gino, he gets caught in those numbers games. And, you know, there's 3 guys at second, and then he's a utility infielder and outfielder. So certain guys are just going up and down, up and down. And if they don't have a strong mind, then it's really going to mess with them in the future.
All right, we talked about the players that have come up and down. One player the Royals fans cannot wait to see is Wil Myers, former catcher turned outfielder, tore the cover off the ball at AA Arkansas, the same in Omaha, knocking out of the ballpark. Maybe, probably not going to be with the big league club until next season, maybe a late September call-up, but this is a player making Royals fans drool about what the future could look like.
Well, you know, he's one of those players where if the Royals really need a pitcher, you know, he can be one of those guys that we could trade somebody and bring him up. He could be in the trade, but I think he's kind of like Gordon. You know, when Gordon was at third, he was behind the plate. All of a sudden, he goes to the outfield and he's tearing the cover off the ball. So, you know, wish the kid a lot of luck, and he's a guy that can help.
Now, you talked about dangling his trade bait. I don't think Dayton Moore has any intention of doing that.
Well, not so much dangling him, but what I'm saying is if they have a Francoeur or
I got you.
something like that, and the Royals need to make a trade, then you know, they have an abundance of outfielders. So, I mean, if it's a trade and they need a pitcher, then he's the kid that they can bring up and put in place like nobody's left.
Now, he fought through some injuries last year and has come back strong, and certainly Royals fans cannot wait to see him and these Omaha Storm Chasers. You like watching the future?
Well, I like watching
bright.
the future. The future always looks bright.
Especially with the way the Royals are playing. All right, Willie Wilson, thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
All right. And we'll send it back to Katie Falco at Werner Park.
Welcome back to the Omaha Storm Chasers pregame show. Outfielder Wil Myers was transferred to Omaha on May 16th from AA Northwest Arkansas. Myers was a highly ranked prospect in the entire Kansas City farm system, someone fans had their eye on since spring training. Before coming to Omaha, Myers had a .343 average with 13 homers, 30 RBI, and 4 stolen bases. He was drafted in the 3rd round of the 2009 June amateur draft. When Myers was called up on May 16th, this was his first time playing at the AAA level. At a young age of only 21, Myers is having no issues putting the bat on the ball, as he has 7 homers, 18 RBIs to show for only his 20 games here in Omaha. And I'm here with Wil Myers. You know, I just rallied off some impressive stats. Another one I want to mention is 24 hits, 13 of those for extra bases. Your bat is obviously seeing a lot of action here in Omaha.
Yeah, I definitely feel good at the plate. You know, I'm getting some good pitches up there. You know, trying to take advantage of good pitches early in the count, and right now it's paying off for me.
And I spoke with you the day after your first AAA game, you know, your first at bat, you got a hit. You were telling me how good that was to have those fans cheering for you. Tell me about that experience and kind of what it's been like since that first game.
Yeah, it's definitely been cool. You know, when I first walked up to the plate, my first at bat, I could tell the fans cheered a little more. So that definitely made me feel a little comfortable, and I was able to get a hit. You know, I've definitely felt the crowd support behind me, so it's been a lot of fun playing here so far.
And you have had a lot of support from fans. You know, there's a lot of hype surrounding you. How do you kind of push that aside and focus on what's in front of you?
Yeah, I just want to go out every day and just try to have good at bats. You know, go out and try to get better at one thing each day. Just want to work on my overall game every day.
And you have been, and you're obviously seeing a lot of success at the AAA level. You know, what is your ultimate goal? I know when I spoke with you a couple weeks ago, you said to help Omaha to victories, but beyond that, where do you kind of see yourself down the road?
Yeah, I mean, definitely want to be playing in the major leagues. You know, it's been my dream ever since I was a little kid. I mean, I've never wanted to do anything else than play baseball, so it's just something I'm trying to strive for every day, and hopefully I make it there.
And in order to strive for that goal, is there anything you think you need to improve on?
Yeah, there's some things I need to improve on. I chase some sliders away every now and then, so that's just definitely something I need to work on, staying back on the ball. You know, work on my defense, work on getting jumps on balls. But I mean, there's something I can improve every day on, so that's what I'm trying to work towards.
And you're a very flexible player. You know, you're very versatile in the outfield. I've seen you at third base during practice taking ground balls. You were a catcher before. How big do you think that is, having that flexibility to maybe fit into the Royals roster sometime soon?
Yeah, you know, it's just definitely, I just want to keep my options open. Wherever the Royals want me to play is where I'll play. You know, I feel comfortable in the outfield. I feel good at third base.
I was infielder in high school, so the third base wasn't anything too new to me. So it's all about keeping your options open. Whenever Kansas City thinks I'm ready, that's when I'll be able to take whatever position they want me to take.
All right, well, I'm going to ask you a few personal questions. At what point in your life did you know you wanted to be a Major League ball player?
It's always been my dream to be a Major League Baseball player. It's always something I want to do. I know a lot of kids growing up want to be like a police officer or whatever. I've always had the dream of playing Major League Baseball. So it was kind of a dream come true whenever I was drafted and was able to play. Was drafted by the Royals and play professional baseball.
And is there any specific game or moment that's really stuck out and is memorable to you?
Yeah, it was my second professional game. It was in Burlington, North Carolina. It's like 20 minutes away from my house. And I was able to have my first professional hit, and it was a home run. And I probably had like 200 or 300 fans there for me. So that was really, really exciting for me to be able to do that in front of them.
Did you get a standing ovation?
No, I didn't get a standing ovation, but I could definitely hear my parents and my friends cheering for me. So that was really cool.
And on the team, I know since spring training you built a few relationships there. I know you and Jake Odorizzi came up from Arkansas together and
Right.
are roommates. He was telling me how cool that was to experience that together.
Right.
Talk about some of the other relationships you built on the team.
Yeah, one of my good friends, Ben Terrio, he actually retired this year, a couple games before I got moved up. We've been good friends coming up through the minor leagues together. We were drafted the same year, always been on the same team usually. But it's definitely cool to meet new people and build relationships with a bunch of other guys.
Have you talked to some of the guys like Will Smith who have seen time in the majors and asked them for advice and kind of what to expect when you get there?
No, I actually haven't asked Will, because he's been up there, I think, 2 weeks or something like that. But in big league spring training, I definitely got some advice from some of the older guys out there, and they definitely helped me out a little bit.
What are you most curious about or nervous about when it comes to the big leagues?
Defense. I feel like being in the big league stadiums with the backdrops, I feel like that'd be a little more difficult than hitting for me. So that'd be the most nervous part I have for it.
And I have some random questions out of curiosity. Why do you spell Will with one L?
I don't know. I get that question all the time. It's just something I've always done, and I really don't know. It's just something I've always done.
And my other question is, why do you wear a right sleeve? I see it on during games, but not during practices.
Yeah, I don't keep it on during practice because it's out in the sun. I don't want to get a bad tan line. So it's just one of those things I just wear just kind of for looks.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and I wish you the best of luck as the season continues.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and coming up after the break, we'll bring back Brett Pollock, and we'll preview Thursday night's game against the Round Rock Express. Coming up after the break. Welcome back to the Omaha Storm Chasers pregame show. As I mentioned earlier, the Chasers sit at 35-25 on the season before facing Round Rock. This is a 4-game series between the Chasers and Express. This is the third series between these two teams this season, with the first two happening back in April. Omaha winning all 4 games of Series 1, then heading to Texas a week later to split the second series. We will talk about this upcoming series here in a bit, but now let's go ahead and take a look at Omaha's upcoming schedule. Following this series, Omaha will hit the road for 7 games, first facing the Iowa Cubs in a 3-game series, then heading straight to Nashville to face the Sounds. The Chasers will have Monday, June 18th off for a 4-game home series against Memphis. Expect to see us here for another pregame show and live broadcast on that Thursday, June 21st. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the players who are burning up here in Omaha and the players who have been struggling over the past 10 games. Obviously, the player that is most hot now is Wil Myers. We talked a lot about him today. We even got the chance to hear from him. So I'm going to have to go ahead and say Roman Cologne. He is kind of closer for the Chasers coming out of the bullpen. He has 5 saves on the season, including the Memphis victory on Tuesday. Over his last 8 appearances, he hasn't allowed a run, struck out 11, but has allowed 6 walks, so something he needs to work on. Tell me a little bit about him.
Well, Roman Cologne's a veteran guy. He's been here before. He's got the stuff to be a closer and to be a successful closer. Throws his fastball 95 plus, has a split-fingered fastball, a slider. He just needs to be more aggressive and more confident. And if he goes out there and uses his stuff and his stuff does what he wants it to do, then he should be very successful.
And a player right now that's not too hot, I would have to say Cody Clark, below 200 in the past 10 games.
Well, it's interesting when you look at a guy like Cody Clark. He's never been a guy that's really hit an awful lot. He is going through a slump right now offensively, but he means an awful lot to this club defensively, what he can do behind the plate, especially with some of the younger pitchers, guys like Mike Montgomery, Ryan Verdugo, Nate Adcock, Will Smith, who are pitching at this level for the first time. Montgomery was here last year but struggled, so Cody's a guy that really can help the younger pitchers to advance and to progress, and he can kind of be that coach behind the plate and guide them through maybe when they're struggling a little bit on the mound. And I think really that's where Cody Clark's value is for this ball club.
All right, Brett, let's go ahead and take a look at Thursday night's game. Some players I'm sure we can expect to see a lot from who we've mentioned, Wil Myers and Clint Robinson. Would you agree on this?
Yeah, no question about it. And all the guys I think will be a little bit amped up to have the opportunity to face Roy Oswalt, to judge themselves against one of the premier pitchers over the last 10 or 12 years in the big leagues. I think guys really get excited when that kind of opportunity presents itself.
And we're going to talk a little bit about Roy Oswalt here in a bit, but first let's look at the statistical matchup between Omaha and Round Rock. In the PCL, Omaha ranks 9th and Round Rock ranks 5th in runs. Omaha ranking 6th in both hitting and on-base percentage. Omaha ranking 9th and Round Rock 7th for slugging percentage. So offensively, Round Rock may be a bit stronger than Omaha. Nonetheless, the Chasers are way ahead of Round Rock as far as pitching goes, ranking 3rd in ERA. But like you said, Roy Oswalt will be here. That is going to be a very unique time for everyone here at Warner Park, as 3-time All-Star Roy Oswalt will be the starting pitcher for the Express. Oswalt signed with the Rangers on May 29th and agreed to a minor league deal. He has an overall ERA of .321 and over 11 seasons spent in the majors, mainly with the Astros and Phillies. He has finished in the top 5 in National League Cy Young Award voting 5 times. Obviously a very prominent athlete, an intimidating guy on the mound. How do you think Omaha will handle this pressure?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that he's intimidating, because he's actually kind of a small guy, and that's been one of the unique things about Oswalt's success over the years, is that for a small guy, he's thrown extremely hard. He's had a tremendous amount of success. And in a situation like this, kind of what we saw a little bit with Jonathan Sanchez, Oswalt's going out there since he really hasn't pitched very much at all this year, and he's trying to work on things. He's trying to gain command of the fastball, work on the off-speed stuff. He's not necessarily concerned all that much about results, but for the guys who are facing him, they are concerned about results, and they would always be able to like to say, well, I hit a home run off of Roy Oswalt in a rehab start, or I hit a triple off of Roy Oswalt. So I think the guys will really bear down, really try to do as much as they possibly can without getting outside of themselves. But I think, like I said, they'll really be excited and amped up to have an opportunity to face a guy who's had a lot of success at the major league level.
It'll be a great opportunity for everybody here at Warner Park and anyone who will be watching it on Time Warner Cable. All right, while we were shooting this show, Ryan Verdugo got called up to Kansas City. Any idea on Thursday starting pitcher? We probably won't know till right before the game.
Well, we're still not sure yet. Jake Odorizzi would be in rotation to pitch on Thursday after having pitched on Saturday. It also could possibly be Everett Tieford, who is scheduled to join the team on a rehab assignment as well. So we're really kind of waiting to see how it all shakes out.
Well, we wish the Chasers the best of luck on Thursday night's game, and thank you, Brett, so much for being here.
Thanks, Katie. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
I want to give a special thanks to producer Andy Chavez and our entire Time Warner Cable crew. Again, this has been Brett Pollock. I'm Katie Falco. It'll be fun to watch these players grow and succeed as the season continues. But for now, we'll take it one game at a time, as the Chasers are about to take the field here at the beautiful Warner Park. A matchup between two PCL teams, as Omaha Storm Chasers will look for their 36th win as they face the Round Rock Express. Stay tuned as we bring you live coverage of the game coming up next right here on Time Warner Cable Metro Sports.